Alexander.
Alexander.
Очень приятно.
I did get stopped a couple of times by the police.
Good Russian, it's dead Russian. Oh.
Слава Україні!
I'm the only person in the street.
And you can do this.
Yeah.
We want to be a part of European Union. We want to be a part of a civilized world.
But our children will not forget this.
Sure. What was I going to find in Kyiv? A ghost town? A city that had been devastated by war, at least partially? People who were suspicious? Military who were aggressive? Would I be thought of being some kind of spy and continually asked for my papers? How many other tourists would there be? And would I be welcome? What would the mood of the city be like, and its inhabitants? Would it be dangerous? What was exactly happening in Kyiv? I spent about 2 weeks in Kyiv in the middle of the summer, beginning of August actually. It was my first time there and I instantly fell in love with it. It's a fascinating city with a real mix of new and old and covered in artwork. Of course, Kyiv is hundreds of kilometres from the front lines, but still, this was a country at war, an attack was likely. So to my surprise, the streets were full of people, and incredibly vibey, full of energy. The people themselves are friendly, hospitable, kind and upbeat. There was no gloomy atmosphere, and you could almost be forgiven for thinking there was no war. The locals were going about their daily lives, taking the metro to work, eating in restaurants, fishing on the river. On afternoons they would take the children to the Ferris wheel, or be out selling bits and bobs in the street, playing music outside. To my delight, there was a real cocktail culture there, so I got stuck into a load of old fashions. Many people were getting tattooed, and luckily I even did a guest spot at a studio there. Folks were skateboarding, and there were several outdoor parties taking place in abandoned ruins. But, of course, there were signs of war. There were soldiers out in the streets, girls with young boyfriends all dressed in military gear, and all the men were in good shape, ready for war. There was an 11 p.m. curfew as well as blacked out parts of the city, not to mention the sandbags that covered several statues, or the blockades in Independence Square, and the flags there for the dead. Naturally, there were propaganda posters, tucked in amongst the graffiti or enlarged and stuck on huge buildings, reminiscent of those World War posters I teach teenagers at my local school. And then, to really hit the message home, were burnt out Russian military vehicles, parts of missiles and planes that had been destroyed and placed in certain squares and streets. And, outside St. Michael's Monastery, lay the Ukrainian family car, riddled with bullet holes and memories of the children that were executed. Well, I saw this. I couldn't resist. They say Berlin is the Kyiv of Europe, regarding the kind of energy in the atmosphere and sort of underground scene and the spirit of the people, the music, the lifestyle. And I could definitely feel that, war or no war. These are not people who are dour or depressed, or seemingly not depressed. These 2 weeks I've not seen any aggression or violence or, people
people not even complaining, to be honest. Just cracking on, getting on with their jobs, getting on with their lives. A resilient group of people, hardy and tough. Very encouraging, beautiful thing to see. Check out this weird park. How cute is this? It's like some kind of sort of Studio Ghibli LSD nightmare. I actually came across this the other day. I was a bit drunk and thought I'd been spiked. Check this out. Bit weird. One for the kids. I think we're in the more hipster part of town. Basically Shoreditch 10 years ago. I'm staying in a classic hostel called Dream Hostel, which is just like any other classic hostel in Europe, except it's got signs about when the air raid siren goes off, go down to the bunker. Bunker just being sort of basement, and but no one does actually. You know, I've heard it quite a few times, pretty much almost every day since I've been here, and everyone just kind of keeps one eye open, which is interesting. I mean, of course, you've been hearing air raid sirens for 6 months. It's going to be like whatever. People in the hostel, well, I have not seen another tourist, as in someone just pottering about like myself, the whole time I've been here. I've seen a few foreigners. Pretty much every foreigner is here is working for an NGO, and respect to them, and also to the military chaps, which obviously I can't talk too much about, certainly not interview, but you know, one lad was from Yorkshire. He was a civilian, and he just came out to fight. He had fought in a war in Syria, and that was his training. Which was fascinating. He just upped and left and was like, I'm going to fight in Syria. 2018, I think he was there. And then I met two Americans, one was a civilian, one was an ex-military. They were young, man, they were like 25. And a Japanese guy who was a civvy as well. The rest of the people in the hostel, which is few and far between, are Ukrainians, not from Kyiv, but from other parts of Ukraine, mostly looking for work and struggling to find work. And obviously they haven't seen a tourist for a while, so they're obviously like, what the fuck are you doing here, man? Which is a fair question. They're happy to see me, I believe, I hope. You know, they're curious, why are you here? You know, there's a war. Yeah, but, you know, Kyiv's relatively safe. Yeah, that's true. Some agree, and some are like, well, there's still a war. And yet still, some people are saying, oh, you should go to Odessa, check out Odessa. And which is kind of tempting. And then I met a German chap who was a photographer, sort of freelance journalist, photographer, who was asking me to come to the front line and saying, oh, we should go to the front line and document it. And obviously part of me is very tempted by that, to document it, to experience it, to speak to some locals, and to speak to the people there, to get first-hand information, to see what it's like. And then the other half is, well, I'm not a journalist and I don't want to start encouraging or, you know, adding to the war tourism in order for basically my own sense of my own sense of glory, and frankly becoming a nuisance and getting in the way. This is Taras Shevchenkov. I learned about him yesterday, who is a Ukrainian poet, was a Ukrainian poet with an excellent moustache. Look at this. And he wrote there's a speech, there's a quote, a little drawing of him. Also the army chaps who have come from America, Japan, England, saying, you know, what are you doing here? I'm just like, oh, I'm just a tourist, just passing through. And yeah, felt a bit redundant at that point. I sort of, what am I doing? Like, seeing the sights. What's the point if you're not being useful? You know, if you're not fighting a cause or helping the NGO projects, what are you doing? It was kind of how I felt, if I'm honest. You know, these are young guys, these are young chaps who have left home and come here to fight. And I asked them, you know, you know, what do the Ukrainians think of you being here if you're not trained military? If you're not trained in the military, do they see you as, are they grateful for you being here, or are you a bit of a nuisance in some way, with the greatest possible respect? They're showing support, and they're not just showing support, they're giving support. So I think that's an incredible, commendable thing. And much respect to those men and to their families who have, you know, families who are supporting that. Punching around as I am with this camera is also not advisable. I am probably being a little bit cavalier about the whole thing right now. There are definitely some buildings that I shouldn't film and certain things I shouldn't film which I'm not. And obviously certain individuals. I did get stopped a couple of times by the police and asked for my papers because I took a photo of an abandoned building. I didn't have my passport on me, strangely, and but I had a photo of it, which was enough. Oh, the fetching brick pillars here, reminiscent of England circa 1980. Great doors to slap you in the face. Thank you, madam. Much appreciated. Now, luckily, you don't have to faff around with a ticket anymore. You can just get, I think, and I'm going to backfire my face. I think you can just use your wallet. Let's find out. Yeah, that's a fail. Oh, no. Thank you, Mary. John, thank you very much, Mary. I appreciate that. This guy. Cheeky fag. Who this chap's going to be. Apparently not liked. Other faces are blanked out. Other faces are not. Steady. Easy, boys, easy. Walk, don't run, boys. We're not at school now, JC. We have the longest underground, no, the deepest underground station in Kyiv, I think in the world, which was my plan to get to today, but I think, alas, I'll have to keep that for tomorrow. They don't like to stand on the left here. It's no more. It's chaos. Deep they made these tunnels. Why? I mean, were they clued up about the Soviet nukes even back then? Must have been, but they really were keen on making hardcore bunkers.
Imagine coming out of COVID, lockdown and that curfew, only to go directly into another one, whilst your country was invaded and went into martial law and your brothers went off to fight. Ukrainians are growing sick of it all. It was time to take advantage of life, not to mention that summer had finally arrived. So let's take a moment to discuss the life of the streets, the atmosphere, the vibe if you will, and how Ukrainians carried on. Now, I don't know if Kyiv was always this lively, I suspect it was. But since the curfew starts at 11 p.m, last orders was at 9:30 and bars shut around 10, which meant in order to maximise their drinking time, aperitifs started straight after work, or 4 p.m, whichever was earlier. And so the city was out, and they were enjoying themselves. Of course, clubs were shut because of the curfew, but I'd heard rumours of lock-ins that once inside you had to stay there until the curfew lifted at 5. Sadly, I never found them. It was a strange juxtaposition, people dancing in the streets whilst professional soldiers stood in groups and civilian soldiers sat at cafes. And then there's silence past 11 p.m. Though a rather different situation, I couldn't help but wonder what Paris and other European cities would have been like during the World Wars.
Да, мені
So what is this? What's
подобається.
tequila,
А ще я
what's Bloody Mary?
коротше, я була в Берліні, один раз ходила на медитацію. Я думала, що це буду лежати годину і кайфувати, а це практика вдячності, 108 поклонів.
Tomato juice, orange juice, Tabasco.
Коротше, я в Берліні це зробила,
basically Bloody
наступного
Mary.
дня в мене була така кріпатура, що я
Like
не
Bloody Mary,
ненавиділа
it's
це,
a drink.
але
It's like
ефект дуже
drink.
прикольний.
And this
Ну, коротше,
one is
там
soft, it's like no alcohol,
починає
There's no alcohol.
працювати все
Yeah,
довкола.
it's
Ну,
not
коротше,
alcohol, it's like
і
soft,
практика
you're drinking
така, ну,
afterwards,
є
after the
ця
tequila.
дівчинка, що
Okay, sure.
показувала нам її, казала, що коли
First,
ти робиш
second.
21 день поспіль, вона так робила.
Okay,
I feel I'm going to regret this forever.
forever. Слава Україні!
Love you, Ukraine.
Героям слава. Це точно.
Крим наш.
Fuck me, that was awful.
Це точно. Це прям
Це моя звичка?
контакти.
Давай зараз.
І создайте просто.
Я хочу далі.
Крим це Україна, і я тут
Horrible.
Ні, нахуя.
Welcome to Ukraine! Let's go!
Everywhere you go, there's some live music. People enjoying themselves. No one seeming particularly sad. Everyone happy. Everyone enjoying life. Like, you know, yeah. It's almost as if the kind of reality of the fucking war is giving them a more like, you know what, fuck it. We're just going to enjoy ourselves from now on. Maybe they always were like that. I don't know. But from what I can see.
На краю стояти, не варто на краю ступати.
Bye, man.
You might think that a nation dealing with the situation would turn chaotic and self-destructive. That, when drinking, there'd be carnage in the streets full of fighting and rage. But no, the people were sensible. They didn't take their fingers off the pulse. When 10:30 hit, there was a mad scrabble for taxis, or a quick march home. A few times I got called out and found myself walking back to my hostel past 11 p.m. Of course, the first time it happened I thought it was quaint and beautiful, because the whole city was deadly silent, and I felt like I was the only one in it. Though I'd seen London during COVID curfew, this one felt more novel, like I was in some 28 Days Later daydream.
I'm the only person in the street. I can't give you a great view of it because my battery stick thing died. But here's an idea. It's just a nuisance really for them. especially in the western part of Ukraine. But it's a necessary nuisance. Much like, you know, this is London during COVID, at the beginning of COVID. Hello, sir. Do you need a light? Да? Хорошо? Да. Как дела?
Лучше всех, но никому не завидую.
I only speak English, I'm afraid.
Huh?
English? London. I'm from there.
В общем, я не Хорштейн.
Yeah. Take care, sir. It is obviously a real nuisance not being able to speak Ukrainian or Russian.
The second time I got caught out, it was a little bit more eerie. The reality of the situation was more tangible. I kept seeing people in the shadows, the glow of cigarettes down dark alleyways, and when a person started walking behind me, I felt like I was being followed and under surveillance. The third time it happened was an entirely different affair. I got continuously stopped and questioned, asked for my papers and frisked. Heavy frowns from the military and police, wondering why the stupid Brit was bumbling around the restricted streets. This was emphasised when I returned to my hostel and found a man on the floor outside wearing only his boxer shorts, an array of military shoving guns in his back and suspecting him of something unsavoury.
It's quite safe, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends who visited this place and they were admired. But at this time, it's like kind of dangerous because even today we had a bombardment of Russian rockets.
Right.
And, you know,
In where?
Here, just around all Ukraine, in all regions of Ukraine.
But in Kyiv, it wasn't. How far was it to Kyiv? It was near Kyiv?
No, it was actually in danger. It was perilled in Kyiv,
Right.
even to be bombarded.
But is it by the suburbs, right?
Yeah.
Are you expecting to be asked to fight? Is that an expectation, or do you think you'll get the phone call to say we need you?
Might be, yeah, might be.
And how, if I may ask, how do you feel about that?
I feel scared.
That's not a too personal question.
No, it's a personal question. But
Yeah, I know, yeah.
I freak out. Like, I'm the one of the guys who is not brave, so I really freak out.
Well,
I don't know if you agree with me, but not everyone is like ready to fight. So you need to be a hero. Not everyone is ready to be a military guy. So I'm not the one who's ready for this because I didn't have any military training. So like some people are, you know, some people are not brave. So there are military people who prepare for this. I was the person who was just living my life and I was ready for this. I don't know how to shoot. And like I have relatives in Russia. And in a way it's like kind of course we hate Russians and stuff, but this is one of the neighboring countries. It's like maybe England and Ireland. So they speak the same language and fuck. So it's in a way it's fucked up. So you need to, in a way you need to kill not relatives, but people who are really close to you mentally and language-wise.
Oh yeah, fucking Russia. Our worst enemy. If you want, we can also send you like the history documentary about Ukraine, and you'll understand that Russia was always the biggest threat to Ukraine, to our freedom, and to our happy living since the ancient times. And yeah, it's just the thing that constantly happens in some form.
It's funny stuff, but it's funny thing that the Kyiv, like, was the first place, like, of the Slovakian, Rus.
Yeah, Kyiv is more than 1,500 years old, and Moscow is around 700 years old. So Moscow, when it was originated and established as a city, Kyiv churches, like Kyiv Rus, was the one who baptized. I don't know if it kind of makes sense. Who baptized the Moscovian region. And we're now saying that we baptized you guys, and after all these centuries, we will also say goodbye to you and make rituals.
So in a way, Ukraine was the older brother?
Yeah, it is the older brother, but at some point, Moscovian people decided that they are the big brother and that we are the small brother. And also why Russia is so fucking huge, why is it like the biggest country in the world? Because they literally genocide and killed and occupied all of the, small ethnical nationalities all among the Eurasia. So, fuck them.
When will be over?
Yeah.
I think that will be a long war.
You think what?
Yeah, that will
Long
be
war.
100 years war.
Really?
Because if it's over yesterday, not yesterday, tomorrow it will be over. That not will be over for Ukraine citizens.
But we live our lives.
Our children will remember
we
it.
opened this place when war started in July.
Yeah, in July, with one month ago. Yeah. And thank you to Russian people who gave us that, push to protect ourselves, to provide our economy and work for the future, for the victory. But our children will not forget this.
Sure. Generally, do you feel that your generation in Ukraine, do they have a problem with just Russian politicians or all Russians?
All Russians. All Russians. He's silent. You know, he's silent. I see comment in Facebook and all. And for Russia, it's happy. It's game. He in this boat with Russian politics.
Do you think Ukraine will be divided?
I think good Russian is dead Russian. All. For me, I see when war start, I put my family and we drive in Kyiv Oblast, and it's little village. It's when don't have army objects, you know, and in this village Russian pull aviabomb, pull rockets, and I see little children and this 11 and 6 year, and he's scary. He's so scary.
Sure.
He can think. He can see where he pull your fucking rocket and fucking aviabomb, but he makes this. You know.
I left the Eerie, my hometown, just after the war has started, like in the 24th of February.
And your family got out? Everyone's safe?
Yeah, my family also left the city because it was too dangerous, you know. My neighbors that stayed in town, they suffered those shellings of rockets from Russians. They felt the occupation of those fucking animals, and I wouldn't like to feel the same experience, so I just left the city when I could.
What do you think winter will be like this year?
Winter?
Yeah.
Like same year, like
always.
Every year, that not will be good winter.
Как быть непростым?
Forgive.
here is don't forgive about Azov and Mykolaiv. Azov is Mariupol because it was a day when Russia killed people in Azovstal and killed people in Mykolaiv. It's a very beautiful city. So it was one day when they killed too much people in one moment.
Sure.
And we write and we don't forgive about this and about Crimea and about Donetsk and about more cities, Ukrainian cities.
Do you think Putin is surprised by the resilience of Ukraine?
Maybe.
He underestimated Ukraine?
Yeah.
Are those alarms now more of a nuisance, or is the threat very real, do you feel?
You know, they're quite useless because assaults from Russians, and we are not afraid of that.
You're accustomed to it?
Yeah, we're accustomed. We are got to that, you know. But still, we need to follow the rules because if the hotel says to you that you need to go to the parking, you're going to the parking.
Sure.
I can't, I can't complain that I'm in financial difficulties.
Sure.
But still, I live in this country that is attacked, that is assaulted by those Russian animals. You know,
Yeah.
They just can't live in normal life. They can't live in normal world where all the nations are friendly, where you can just cooperate with each another, make business. No, they just want to attack you and take the territory.
It's very
I
similar.
wish we could just have a drink with them, but not fight, because they're like close people in a way mentally. My opinion. Maybe some people are gonna disagree with me. Because I used to live in Moscow, so it's even worse. So I have a boyfriend in Moscow, so for me it's super fucked up. So to me, Russians are like my neighbors. Yeah, how do you say it? Like the closest nation that I ever had. Sometimes I think like when I wake up that it was like a fucking like a bad dream. But I wake up and I realize that it's reality.
Still. How do you think it will progress?
You know, I believe that with all the support from Americans and from British, they are actually the great friends of ourselves because they provided us with such a great weapon, mate, that we can fuck Russia.
Do you think there will be an end, or do you think the country will be divided?
No, I don't think that the country will be divided. I don't believe in that shit because even I'm not mobilized by the army forces of Ukraine, but if it would be a need, I will go and fight fucking Russians. I will kill them all, you know. And every Ukrainian will do the same shit.
Sure.
Because we hate those motherfuckers. They just came to our land. They said, guys, you don't know how to live here. You just want to be a part of our empire, a part of USSR, and we fucking don't give a shit about this shit. We want to be a part of European Union. We want to be a part of a civilized world. That's the reason why we would fight and overcome the Russians till the very end, you know. We'll kill the very end, the very last of Russia.
Yeah.
This is the mood that lives in Ukraine.
Yeah. Thanks for talking to me, man.
I can suffer my life, you know.
Thanks
I
for
can
talking
just
to me, man.
Yeah,
Cheers. How do you think it will progress?
I think, unfortunately, I think that it's going to be like a long-term conflict that no one can resolve. Because unfortunately, Russia doesn't have resources to conquer Ukraine. This is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I see it as like a very prolonged conflict, unfortunately.
All right.
You can put a knife and you can do this.
Yeah.
And people...
like voodoo doll?
Yes, voodoo doll. And people who walk here do it every minute.
Yeah, I bet they do.
Yes.
Johnson?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because of the support that Boris Johnson has shown Ukraine, and the fact that he came over and spent time with Zelensky, Ukrainians, understandably, love him. To the point that there's an artwork of him all over the place. There's even an art gallery with portraits dedicated to Boris, which is fascinating. And yeah, then I had this conversation with Anna. Yeah, Kadia was saying that in Ukraine that you guys love Boris Johnson, and that there's a petition to make him the Prime Minister. It's up to 6,500 votes. They're trying to get to 25,000.
Yeah, if we return to 25, this petition will be the president must react to it.
Yes, our president must look that petition. And how much его премируем?
Yes, I checked today, they already have 6,000 signatures. 6,000 people voted.
Why so let's begin with why does Ukraine love Boris Johnson? And when I ask that, that's not a loaded question. That's a genuine question. Why do you think Ukrainians like Boris Johnson?
I think he is very charismatic and he has good energy and he looks very nice, pretty, like when you saw him and his hair, you wanna hug him. He looks like a very nice uncle from family who sit with the book and love animal. But people from Britain tell me a lot of reasons that he is not very good prime minister. He make bad things in life a lot, but we don't know.
Okay, so you're gonna talk about that. Yeah.